What is AV? AV enhances communication between people. It creates a common experience and understanding. It may not be what you think it is, so let me show you. It's audio, sound systems, amplified voices, music, and other ambient sounds. It's visual. Its aesthetic can be seen on display screens with videos, lights, darkness, and other movements. It's an interactive experience. AV uses art and technology to communicate ideas, emotions, and information, to set a mood, and to influence perception. AV uses technology to change how people experience the world.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. My name is Rochelle Richardson. I am the Senior Vice President of Exposition and Event Services of Infocom for AVIXA, which is the Audio, Visual, and Integrated Experience Association. I am very honored to have this opportunity to introduce our two panelists. Dave Labuskes is the CEO of AVIXA, and he has been at the helm of AVIXA for more than 10 years. Dave has spent his time at our association leading and promoting the industry professionalism. He has expanded global programs focusing on DE&I and has brought awareness, of course, to AVIXA programs. Welcome, Dave, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I also would like to welcome Brad Sousa. And Brad is the CTO of AVI Systems for more than 15 years. Brad was appointed the CTO approximately 6 years ago, and he is an AVIXA board member. He is also an AVIXA member, and he's an exhibitor at Infocom, as well as a system integrator for our industry, and who we have collaborated on our integrated experience for this year. So before we get started, I do have a polling question to ask the room and those in our room that plan events. Are you including creating integrated experiences as a part of your strategy? So if you are in the app, you should be able to see the question. And if you will select A for yes, B for no, C, we have discussed and are planning to do so in the future, and D, no plans to include. We'll give you a few seconds to respond to that. I think we can see the results now. Is everyone? Okay, so we do have a large grouping in the room that are saying yes, they are doing some part. 66%, 5% that say no, 21% that say they are discussing and planning to do it in the future, and 6% that have no plans. So perhaps we can show those that are currently doing it some new ways and some new opportunities. Those that are not at all, perhaps maybe persuading, and those that have said no plans. And then those that have discussed maybe providing a good outline or some nuggets of information that you can take back to your organizations as well. So starting off with Dave, can you tell us a little bit about AVIXA, the Audiovisual Integrated Experience Association, what you do, what we do, and what it's all about?
Sure. We're an industry association for that pro AV group. We rebranded to AVIXA from previously referred to the association as Infocom in 2017 to really plant a flag on the fact that we are stewards and contributors to the audiovisual industry, and that the audiovisual industry is uniquely focused on the application of technology towards creation of experiences. So there's parts of our industry that focus on the technology, and there are parts of our industry that focus on the experience. What's really cool about our membership is sort of this alignment of art and science and the delivery of all of the impactful experiences that each of you probably can close your eyes and remember. Two missions. One is to be a catalyst for market growth. If we exist for the industry, we can't actually contribute to that growth, but we can be a catalyst for it. We can create conditions within which our membership can be successful. And then to be a hub for the pro AV community, for the profession itself, those who have chosen to do that. So it creates a bit of a hybrid in that world as well for us as both an industry association and a professional society. And we do those things that you would anticipate that an association with those missions would do. Trade shows, of course, are a key part of our catalyst work. Market intelligence, creating visibility into what are the key trends, where is the industry heading, how are the various different solutions that are being produced, created, envisioned, being applied around the world. And then on the professional society, community side, of course, networking, membership councils, certifications, standards development, education, training, the list goes on. We are a global organization. We have trade shows around the world and membership. Actually, over 50% of our revenues are from outside North America. Over 40% of our membership is from outside of North America, and that continues to be the fastest growing segment of our community.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dave. We're going to pull that into how this connects to creating integrated experiences. Brad, tell us a little bit about AVI Systems, what you do, and how you are affiliated with AVIXA.
Yeah, so AVI Systems is a solutions provider. So the experiences that you saw in that opening video, we create the systems that create those experiences. And for us, that's anything from a conference and collaboration experience to a broadcast center or maybe a football stadium someplace. So it's all the variations in between. We're a global organization. We do business in 65 countries worldwide. It's a ton of fun. I love the industry that I'm in. And I have the privilege of serving on the AVIXA board as a member within our community and also working alongside great leaders like you.
Awesome, wonderful. Thank you so much, Brad and Dave, for that. So, Dave, as a part of our show strategy a few years ago, we realized that we were going to take a non-traditional approach to trade shows and really look at how we are producing our trade shows, and also to incorporate integrated experiences as a part of that discussion. Can you walk us through some of the initiation or the beginning phases of that? Can you walk us through how we met and what led us to deciding that integrated experiences needed to be really an important part of our go-forward strategy?
Yeah, I certainly can. The key is whether I can do it in 36 minutes and 12 seconds. Sam?
5 minutes, Dave, 5 minutes.
It's an interesting story. The strategy discussions started really in 2016 and had nothing to do with show strategy. We were talking more about what does being a hub for the AV profession mean. I'm absolutely not the smartest person in this room, but almost always am not the smartest person in a room, and find that I have to pull things down to very simplistic concepts for me. And somebody already said it this morning. I think it was Sam in your 5.5 minutes of connecting buyers and sellers being at the core of an event. And if you marry connecting buyers and sellers with the need to be the hub for the community, and then just for fun and giggles, you throw in a global pandemic that shuts down everything you've ever done as an organization for a few years. You really have to drill down to what are your key issues, what are your key business models and strategies. And we distilled it to something I can actually remember and keep in mind, which is our business model. We see it as attract an audience, monetize the audience, monetize access to the audience. It's really that simple at a business level. So for us, it begins at that attract an audience. Now in this room we talk a lot about attendee acquisition, but you're only going to acquire attendees from an acquired audience. And you're only going to acquire an audience if they're actually aware of what you're saying. If you take that all down to now, we're not going to talk about world peace and motherhood and apple pie anymore, but actually talk about what are you going to do on Monday in that context. One of the key areas that we see as a strategic point for that is these integrated experiences at an event. They are an opportunity to create talking points. They are an opportunity to demonstrate thought leadership, to demonstrate innovation, and they are a tool with which we can reach new audience and create interest, which then potentially, through an engagement journey, turns into audience attendance.
Very good response there. And just on the slide here, you're seeing a couple of groups that we had the initial discussion around strategy, our senior leadership team within AVIXA, the Infocom show strategy team working with our vendor from a strategic perspective, and then also our global trade show, which of shows that Dave had mentioned, our exhibitors as well, the Exhibitor Advisory Committee, research from within the industry, as well as our very own market intelligence, that we have a team, dedicated team, that does a combination of market intelligence and some business intelligence as well, and we have those consistently reported out. As a part of Infocom, we then take that information and we create our show strategy, and we looked at what are the 3 pillars that we would focus in on, which is to reinforce our brand leadership, create and optimize the overall experience through these integrated experience, and produce sustained business value as well. We looked at what are the top reasons consistently that attendees are saying that they are coming to our trade shows. Nothing earth-shattering here. We've seen it in 2 other presentations this morning. To see products, to meet with other attendees, to also we were looking at the networking opportunities and content and learning and overall experience and fun as well. We found also that our attendees are spending 3.5 more hours on our trade show floor than across what the industry average is. So from there, this is where I'd like to drill in with Dave a little bit more, and also with Brad, to ask the question, when we talk about help the audience to understand from the standpoint of the decision to invest extensively in these attendee experiences, and can you talk about the evolution of trade shows, talking about return on objective, return on investment, and delivering quality experiences over quantity? Dave?
I hope so. I think the challenge we face in delivering these events almost starts at what we call them as trade shows. That, implies a very specific focus and actually seems to be unidirectional, right? We show, not necessarily engage. And so much of our model, so much of our conversations, and so much of at least the legacy methodology of extracting value from those is related to creating a bigger stage or a bigger audience to show stuff to. We all talked about it. I mean, first we talked about the death of face-to-face, then we talked about the fact that face-to-face would live on forever. But face-to-face implies a conversation, it implies an interaction, and so we all work with our exhibitors to talk about how do you show more solutions and less product, how do you create a better opportunity to engage with the attendees. But some of where we're putting our money to is actually creating those. And it does a couple things. One, I already talked about. It creates an opportunity to attract new audience to the attendee list. People that would never come to the event may come to the event because of this creation that you're putting there. It also creates an inspiration. It also creates differentiation, right? We saw in some of Freeman's information, the use of trade shows for announcing new products is is slipping and moving towards other platforms, and that was certainly driven, or accelerated at least, by a global shutdown. What we have to do is create memorable moments. We have to create pauses. We have to create a place that serves multiple purposes then. It attracts the audience. It demonstrates the technology. It puts together a opportunity to visualize the possible. It lays out an agenda for conversation, and it leaves something memorable for people to talk about that then reinforces next year's attendance. Like, if the only reason you're going to a show is to learn about manufacturer X's new product Y, well, you can read about that on the web. What you can't do is experience some of these things on the internet. You have to be there. And if you missed it, you'll regret that, and then you'll come next year.
Yep. So I'll show you a couple of slides here. The Trailblazer Zone is not anything new to what trade show organizers are doing, but we launched that this year, planning to launch it this year, where we'll have 10 new first-time companies that will showcase new products. But we want it to advance beyond just the new products. We'll have a continuation of the technology innovation stage, which allows thought leadership to present on this particular area. It allows us to conduct live streaming, as well as present our tech giants for the first time, Microsoft and Cisco, that are doing a joint collaboration from the stage as well. But what's really exciting is the creating memorable experiences. And so let us share with you our new interactive experience that is created by Moment Factory and powered by Nanolumens. Anyone that knows Moment Factory, they're one of the top content creators in the world. And Nanolumens is one of our manufacturers in the Pro AV industry. And the collaboration that we've had this opportunity to do this, as well as having their general manager from Moment Factory to come and present at InfoComm, is what we like to say, one-of-a-kind fusion of art and technology for the first time. And here's another video to see what it will look like.
Moment Factory is ready. Ready to connect you with the environment, with each other, in new ways, by exploding the interface. Touch. Please prepare for your next activation.
Sound.
Body.
This sound. Sound. This sound.
For those of you that are planning to attend InfoComm, we invite you to experience this at InfoComm this year. I'd like to transition to InfoComm Esports Live, the first time that we are launching something of this particular experience at InfoComm, and invite Brad to the discussion. Brad, please walk us through the process and experience for you of the ideation and execution as an integrator, AVIXA member, and exhibitor, and why this project was such an allure for you.
Wow, that's so. The idea, when you and I first started talking about this, the idea was, can we create an experience that people can connect with and goes deep enough into their life outside of the show that it created conversation and transported the community of InfoComm into their everyday life, right? I mean, that's the whole idea of an integrated experience, is to go deeper. Right. And so, you and I thought about, different kind of concepts. And we landed on the collegiate esports concept because, for a number of reasons. One, it's a remarkable showcase of all the different technologies. It includes live events, it includes broadcast and production and streaming, it includes competition and super geeky, nerdy technologies that everybody wants to talk about. But it also has a remarkable human impact when you start talking about the stories of how esports has changed the dynamics of collegiate business and has changed the dynamics of collegiate students. And so because there was a human side to the story, not just an engineering or tech side of the story, it was something that was really intriguing to us and to you. Esports in and of itself is a burgeoning, emerging, I can't even really call it a business because it doesn't have rules really around it yet. It's not mature enough to be that way. But man, it's so engaging, and that's one of the reasons why it was so attractive to us.
Awesome. Can you also share about the partnership, an opportunity to collaborate with our manufacturers in our show and their receptivity, and why this was so pivotal, but also the receptivity of the industry when we made the announcement?
Yeah, I think we've all done projects, and we've imagined as we're creating these projects how people are going to want to donate equipment and time and resources. And then when you talk to them, they're really enthusiastic about it, right? Okay, maybe you don't get the joke, but I certainly do. You got it? Thank you. I appreciate it, Sam. Here's the thing. When we sat down with some of the largest global media brands, like Sony and Logitech and others, and we explained what the vision was, it caught fire. And the result of that was a really powerful collaboration. And so at this venue, there's an activation that will include a gaming stage. So that's live collegiate esports gaming. And if you're not familiar with what collegiate esports is, get out your phone and Google Rocket League, and that'll kind of give you an introduction to what it is. But there'll be live 3-on-3 collegiate teams gaming there. There's a live production streaming broadcast suite there. There's a shoutcaster desk, which would be the esports vernacular for color and commentary, so they'll be calling an active game. And then there's a coaching stage that we'll be talking with higher ed leaders from North America, really around how to build an esports program within their school. They've already got one. More than 80% of all college D1 schools and larger private schools have got some sort of esports initiative. They're just trying to figure out how to get it to a varsity sports level, and we'll be talking about all of that.
Awesome. I'm going to show a video here, which is one of the collaborators with us in the space, Logitech, and their hype video to promote the space. So one other point I'll just reference is that all of the equipment that's powering this space was completely provided by our manufacturers that are all sponsoring this. We've also, through this, partnered with an organization called eFootprints that has allowed us to connect with new audiences, new universities. We have the president of Talladega that will be visiting us, as well as coaches from both Talladega and Faulkner University as well. So we're highlighting some of the successes. And Brad and Dave, I'd like to ask you both about some of the failures in learning to help get us to this point. So maybe if we can start off with you, Brad.
Yeah.
And as a part of that questioning, right, why should we feel uncomfortable? Why should we feel comfortable with feeling uncomfortable?
Yeah, so there's a saying in my team, which is we want to create healthy tension. And the notion is that if you have the right amount of tension, think as a musician, if you have the right amount of tension on a guitar, as an example, it'll make music. And if you all have the right amount of tension, then you create harmony together. If you don't have enough tension, then you're out of tune. If you have too much tension, then the string snaps. Here's the deal. We all want to create experiences where people they can't wait to get on the plane and get to whatever it is that we're doing, right? Isn't that what we all want? But the reality is to do that, you have to be willing to do something revolutionary, something that is an experience worth leaving my normal life and coming and doing something different. That in and of itself requires risk. That risk in and of itself is going to create tension. And so the journey that you go through in creating those experiences worth changing my life, my daily schedule for, are inherently risky. And so we want to lean into that. I remember you and I had a conversation early on, and I said to you, at some point we're both going to want to jump out the window. We're going to help each other come back in off the ledge and say it's going to be okay, we're moving forward. But that's all part of it. There needs to be a healthy tension. Otherwise, there's no reason for somebody to come and experience a once-in-a-lifetime event.
Dave,
I've
you had
never
a great.
failed. I've never failed. Nah.
Okay, now can you answer the question, please?
Yes, boss. Has anybody met Rochelle? Yeah, I have multiple stories of failure. I guess I'll start. I'll go back to the Moment Factory sort of illustration we had there. I've been a fanboy of Moment Factory for probably about 20 years. I bumped into them when I was doing some environmental design work pre-AVIXA. And at a certain point, I nurtured that relationship enough to convince them to let me bring my board to their offices to see how this interaction of technology and art and was creating an entire new industry, which Moment Factory was at the lead of. And I made the mistake of saying, how many of you come to Infocom? And most of them had never even heard of Infocom. We were so irrelevant to them and what they were doing at the time that they were out of courtesy hosting my board, but didn't bother coming because Infocom was a platform of technology. It wasn't about how to apply that technology, how to change the way people experience the world. So it's actually really, really fulfilling to see them be a part of the event this year. We talked about integrated experiences. We talked about creating these moments. The discussion about esports, the reason I love this is because this is, so how many of us have had the conversation or the fight with attendees that we should live stream every single event and content piece that's presented because some people can't come, right? Or we thought that was going to be version 2 of shows, is we were going to extend this physical show into the digital environment. We're going to reuse it. We're going to make billions and billions of dollars reselling all of this content. And it doesn't work. What esports, that piece is doing is it's taking live streaming to the next level. It's creating a digital experience that can reach an audience that wouldn't necessarily come and extending the experience of that event there. So what doesn't work? Like a couple years, the Moment Factory actually happens to be headquartered in Montreal, and there's another little company you've heard of headquartered in Montreal called Cirque du Soleil. Cirque du Soleil formed, I'm sure most of you are aware of C2 at a certain point, and there was this whole new innovation of a business conference. So it's a combination of Cirque du Soleil and ECEF. And I'm like, well, we should do that. So we take a little 50 by 50 space and we hung some stuff from the ceiling and elevated people in the air, but it never was connected to anything else we were doing. It was this little amusement park in the corner that didn't have relevance and certainly wasn't extendable and didn't create a highlighting of every other reason you were there. So it didn't work. I mean, it was cool, it was fun to go up in the air and think differently for a couple seconds, but it didn't have an impact on the strategy of the event, and it certainly didn't contribute as a catalyst to market growth or being a hub for the AV community.
So I did not know that Dan was boy fanning over Moment Factory, so that is news, and so that was a good choice then, Dave. You can pay me later. Okay, so on the Unreal Ride, I'm just going to name a couple of other experiences that we have also added. This year, the Unreal Ride has been at a couple of our shows, but they are launching a new vessel that will only be seen at InfoComm. So that was just something that we organized with them. So of course, those of you that are coming, please take an experience. It's again, another collaboration between View Technologies, Unilumin, and MRMC, only again at InfoComm. Additionally, we will have an Ameria, working with Ameria, another exhibitor, a gaming experience, which is a touchless race car gaming, where we will have competition and a leader at the top of the leaderboard on a daily basis. Another great collaboration. They've created an avatar of myself that will be the race car driver in a Porsche racing vehicle. So the AVIXA Lounge, all of you ask about our association. The AVIXA Lounge is an opportunity that allows us to speak with members and non-members at our show, as well as bringing in our global industry teams through scheduled appointments. It also allows us to talk about the different services that we have from an association perspective. But I'd like to talk about the connection of the physical, in-person, combined with the digital hybrid experience. And I have a question for Dave. So Dave, under your leadership, AVIXA launched Exchange last year ahead of both of our largest trade shows. Why was that an important initiative for AVIXA, the Pro AV community, and how does that intersect with creating integrated experiences at the physical show?
This is evolving. Fernando talked about being on a journey. We certainly are on a journey as well. So much of we all were trying to figure out what are we going to do when we didn't have airplanes as Delta. Where we already were on a pathway is to how do we create this digital hub? If we're the hub for the profession, if we're the hub for the community, it's the same thing that everybody's been talking about. What do you do the other 362 days of the year? How do you extend that? But we already had a community. We just weren't leveraging it. We weren't really supporting it. We had fits and starts in this. It took a lot longer to put together Exchange than I thought it would. And then I also thought I'd be able to make billions and billions from it quickly, and pretty painfully recognized that nobody's going to pay for any access to an empty room. But I do think that as we evolve and as we look at the spend and we look at the new people that are making purchasing decisions and engaging with the marketing tool that we have to get beyond just talking about omnichannel. We have to get beyond just talking about extending the physical event, and we have to look at how do we bring both the digital and physical space together, leveraging the strengths of both, because there's enormous strengths in the digital world, and that's where Exchange comes from. So it's you can go to exchange.org. It's free to gain access to it, and it's essentially the LinkedIn for the AV industry. As of this point, we've now had over 200,000 unique visitors to this. We continue to grow it. The registered users is a factor of 10 lower, but that's essentially what we would anticipate. It's the same as your mailing list versus your attendees for your events. The piece that I like is that it's organically reinforcing itself now. So most of the content is no longer content that I'm paying somebody to write. It's now content that's being contributed. The providers that are participating in this community are putting thought leadership pieces in place. They're creating reputations in this community that then allow those buyers that we are attracting to the community to find them. And so this is essentially creating a digital buyer and seller interaction. So that's great, but all of this has to link together, right? And the other problem or challenge we have is we've got trade shows around the world, but most of them are owned and operated by joint ventures. So almost by structure, we have silos. So my European show is owned by it's owned as a joint venture with another association. My Asian shows are all owned as part of a joint venture, which means I have a managing director of each of those shows. And I have salespeople working for a managing director of each of those shows. I have salespeople working for you, and you care about what they sell for InfoComm, not so much how much they sell for ISE or for InfoComm Asia. And that's always going to be the case. But without linking that portfolio, there's this massive amount of strength and competitive advantage I have over all of you that are trying to compete in our space, of an association and of a community and of a global portfolio and a platform to be able to offer these exhibitors. And that's where this was. And the final piece, I know I babbled on about this, is the actual show itself. So now how do you take this digital world and bring it into the physical world? And that's what this Exchange Live is and AVIXA TV is. We all do these types of sessions, but we've got hundreds, thousands of people that are registering to come to these sessions that are there because of the relationships they've created on Exchange, not because of our marketing and promotion for the show. So we're going to expand the registered users and access of Exchange while creating more value for the event itself. And incidentally, and this is another 400-hour presentation, capturing data and performance and interest and behavioral patterns in both places for all those people, which is significantly valuable. I haven't made billions off that yet, but I think that one's got some legs.
We're getting close, we're getting close. Brad, can you add additional context to that and just tell us what is your experience in sharing why both physical and also digital are important aspects of creating unique integrated experiences?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be integrated, you have to go deep, and it has to, what we do has to become part of the everyday life, hopefully, of whoever's part of the event. To do that, unless they're planning on taking the show home with them, you have to have some sort of digital method of consuming. And in particular with that is the networking part. So I'll share something, I don't think I've shared this with you before. I've been a consumer of Infocom since 1994, I think it is, was my first show I went to. And so the idea is what Infocom means to me as a consumer has changed over the years, as you would imagine. And so if you don't have that digital ability for people to access what they need at that time in their journey, then it just becomes a snapshot in time and not really an experience or a full-length feature, if you will. It's just one frame in the story. Those digital experiences are how you containerize Infocom, as an example, and integrate it into the lives of the people who are there.
Wonderful. Okay, so that's through the lens of a customer and through a member for AVIXA, which is really important. So we're not just drinking our own Kool-Aid, but we're actually listening to the voice of our customer. Another really important question, I think it's safe to say that DE&I is an integral part of AVIXA and AVI Systems and the direction that the Pro AV industry is moving in. How do you as leaders guide your organizations on DE&I, and how is it applicable to this topic of creating integrated experiences? Brad.
Wow. Yeah, so I'm a chief technologist, and so innovation is core to who I am and to my team. You can't actually innovate without having diversity in experiences and worldviews. So diversity in and of itself is a critical ingredient if we're going to create something new. And so we're very intentional about how we bring people into our community and what I call finding the front doors. So a lot of people might enter into an industry through a back door or a side door, and I used to think that there was one front door. We wanted to make it easy for people to find. The reality is that there's multiple front doors that look familiar to different people, and so how do you create those multiple front doors? I'm going to go back to the esports venue for just a moment, because esports live, one of the values of that is its inclusiveness and its appeal to a broad, diverse audience, not just racially, but generationally and ethnically, and just engineers and journalists and all the different kinds of people that are interested in that topic. And that's, to me, the true value of diversity and inclusiveness.
Awesome. Dave, same question.
I think it's just intentionality. Just intentionality. It's intentionality. And Brad talked about doors. I remember pretty cogently somebody pointing out to me that there are lots of closed doors for lots of the population that I don't even know exist, that are invisible to me. And so I think there's what we can do as show organizers is create an environment that is welcoming and create opportunities for people to see themselves. I guess the most specific example I would pull from our events in the last several years is our Pass the Mic program, where we all face this challenge where there's the legacy instructor or the volunteer that's been teaching this course or giving this presentation for the last 30 years, and everybody wants to go to, in my industry, sadly, his presentation because it's never her presentation. We reached out to those individuals and asked them to recruit talent to come on stage with them to be able to pass the mic. And then that happened for a period of time. Then we were able to sell those presenters that they could do it without the initial person on stage. And that's created a much more diverse content provision, which then creates a sense of I won't be alone if I go to that event, and then reinforces its existence.
Awesome. Okay, so in closing, I'll just say we also work and incorporate integrated experience tours within the destination. As a part of InfoComm this year, we have worked with Disney on the Fantasmic Hollywood Studios in Orlando. We also have tours scheduled at the University of Central Florida and also Full Sail University. At this time, I'd like to ask Brad and Dave to share what are the top 3 ways leaders here in the room and in our industry can level up and creating integrated experiences at the shows. Dave?
I'm just going to take one because of want to respect the time. I think the one would be dig deeper to connect whatever offering you have. It's one thing to say we're going to create this really neat experience in this bound space and time, but if it doesn't have relevance to the rest of your strategy, don't waste your time on it. Go spend the money on a great reception. It's got to have a purpose. It's got to align with and be integrated with what you're doing with your event and with the overall audience community that you have. And that means throw away the first 4 iterations of what you're thinking of doing until you can really walk through why do we want this? What is it going to contribute to the larger picture? Still has to be cool, still has to be integrated, still has to create an experience that people will talk about, send pictures about, tweet about, all the things we know. But that's not enough. That's just icing. You gotta make sure it's integrated with the reason you exist.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dave, for that answer. And Brad, your top 3.
So if you gave 1, I'll give 2.
There we go. You got half of what you asked.
You got half of it done. So the first is, I would say, be super intentional about your virtual experience, your online experience. A lot of us think of it as, well, I'm going to allow people to see what we're doing here. And that, I don't think, really makes it happen. Be intentional about curating that experience. Think of it as an additional exhibit hall to what you're doing. Your digital experience is a campus extension. And so what you would do for people who come physically present, do the same thing for those that are online. They're just choosing to consume differently. And so that esports activation, it's going to bring in hundreds of people online who choose to consume it differently. And our objective is, how do we enable them to feel connected to what we're doing, not the other way around. And then the second is lean into healthy tension. If you don't choose to lean into that healthy tension, you won't have the courage to innovate. And without innovation, there isn't a reason for people to change their daily schedule to come join you at your event. So that's what I would lean into.
So thank you, Dave. Thank you, Brad. It's been a pleasure. I hope everyone has enjoyed the conversation and the discussion. Are there any questions? Brad, do we have time for any questions? Okay.
You've been perfectly on time. Thank you. And I'll start out with the first question and then questions from the audience. You're big thinkers, you're strategic thinkers, you're high-level executives with healthy tension. What about your staffs? What about your teams? When you first shared this great journey with them, what was their reaction, and how did you, because I think I know what it might have been, and how did you bring them to be fully engaged and contributing to your vision?
So is that directed to one of us or to all of us?
So I'll start off with this to say that when we first started this last year, we spent about 3 to 4 months ideating internally to get the buy-in of the team, because people feel comfortable doing what they know to do, not venturing into new spaces. And so there was the measure of uncomfortableness that I think that my internal team could not get beyond. Brad and I were continuously having conversations. We started off in one area, but esports was one of our top 2 options to create these integrated experiences. And so by the end of the year, Brad said to me, Rochelle, this is our go or no-go timeframe, which was about the 3rd week in January. So I had about 3 weeks to get the buy-in of the internal team, and it really took that time to really walk people through what were the key pillars here. It was really about audience acquisition. This needs to be a driver. How does it connect back to our show strategy? And then also, what are the other things that we can create? We were going to create 3 days of live content, live events taking place in that space. And then we were also connecting the physical with digital. So we were hitting a lot of our key strategic initiatives, part of the association. And those are the factors that helped us to drive to say, okay, we're all in and we're going to proceed forward. We had already made the decision in August that we were going to invest significantly in trade shows. But I'll let Brad pick up from there, because we've had interesting conversations. We did this in exactly 5 months, 4.5, 5 months. Yeah. And his team is very heavily engaged, so is mine. And then, of course, at the university level, because we have teams, esport teams coming to compete from the collegiate level at our show.
Yeah, so I'm fortunate, Sam, that my team loved the idea early on. And I have a great team that is up for the challenge. But one of the things that we've learned is there's multiple go, no-go stages through all of these challenges that you face. If you're going to do something that's never been done before, you can't actually agree to the outcome, because you really don't know what the outcome is. Nobody's ever done it before. And so there's multiple go, no-goes. So I had a go, no-go moment with one of my team members, Craig Frankenstein. He's the director of broadcast and digital media for us. And I said to him, dude, you got to tell me straight, no BS, this going to happen or not? And he looked at me and he went, what, are you wondering? Oh, no, there's not a decision. This is done. Oh, okay, that was a go, no-go for me. Apparently he had already gone. I had no idea. But his willingness to go is what propelled us forward. I know you and I have had other situations like that, and getting my CEO on board, if I tried to bring him on board at the very beginning, he would have said, yeah, okay, go ahead and do it, but I would have known the subtitle to that was you're out on your own. He now is like fully bought in, right? So just have enough courage for the phase that's in front of you, and trust your team that you're going to have what you need to get all the way to the other side.
So I'll add a note to that. This is the single most press announcement post.
It's been hot.
That is gone viral across our industry, adjacencies, professionals, membership, and across other associations as well. So people are increased and catapulted our registration as well.
Yeah,
After the
exciting.
announcement.